Hey book nerds, it's Sarah and welcome back to my channel. So I'm trying out a new filming angle for today's video. Let me know if you like it. I kind of like the whole angled bookshelf thing. I think it makes for a really cute little filming nook. But if you guys like it, let me know in the comments. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about my most anticipated releases for 2023. I have a list here of 15 books that I am very excited for, and all of these books are from authors that I have already read from, so these aren't new to me authors. And don't worry, I will end up posting a video about the books that are on my radar, which means that I'm going to be talking about books from most likely debut authors that I have seen in different lists on the internet and on Goodreads about new books that are coming out this year that seem interesting to me, and pretty much all of them are going to be by authors either that I know of but I've never read from, or debut authors. So be on the lookout for those videos. I'm going to post two of them, one for the books that are on my radar for the first half of 2023, and towards June or July I'm going to post the second one for the books that are on my radar for the second half of 2023. But in this video I'm just going to be concentrating on my most anticipated releases from the authors that I know, that I've read from, and that I love. Now, I am obviously very late with the release of this video, and the tardiness of it was explained in my most recent reading vlog that I posted, so if you guys have any questions you can go watch that, and I explain everything in regards to my absence. But with that being said, I'm trying to make up for lost time, and I really wanted to post this video anyway because there are so many books that I am excited for this year. So without further ado, let's jump right into my most anticipated 2023 releases. So if you guys notice like this weird lighting coming from beneath me, I have my laptop here and I am opening up Goodreads because I made a bookshelf. I actually made two, so I made a most anticipated releases bookshelf for 2023, and I also created an on my radar bookshelf. If you guys want to friend me on Goodreads, I will leave the link to my Goodreads page down below, so you'll be able to go check out like all of the different bookshelves I have, and if there is a book in particular that you are interested in, you will be able to check that out on Goodreads as well. So just a side note before we jump into this list of most anticipated releases of mine, most of these are either sequels or mystery thrillers, and in true little book nerd fashion, when it's a mystery or a thriller, I tend to not look up the synopsis because I feel like sometimes they can put too many details that could potentially spoil the story for me. So the cover is going to pop up on screen so you guys know which book I'm talking about, and I will say a couple of things about it, but not much, and I definitely will leave a link to this Goodreads bookshelf that I created, so if you guys are interested in one of these books, you can go look at the details for yourself. So these first few books I'm going to talk about have already been released. We are currently at the end of February, so obviously some of these books in my list have already been published. So the first one is The Stolen Heir by Holly Black, which is a short little novella in the Cruel Prince world. So I'm probably going to have to reread The Cruel Prince. I absolutely loved this trilogy when I first read it. I think it was 2 years ago. I was really a fan, so when I saw that she was coming out with a short story novella type thing in the same world, I think it might be about Cardan or it might be about Oak. I'm not quite sure. I do not remember the details, but it's there. It has been published. It came out on the 3rd of January, so I'm very excited to pick this up and read it. The next book on my list is Just the Nicest Couple by Mary Kubica. So it's a mystery thriller. I've seen a lot of people read this recently. Reviews are starting to come in from people that I follow, and so far it seems promising. I'm pretty sure I'm going to like it. And this book was published on January 10th. This next book is one that I think all of us have been excited for, and it's How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. I haven't actually read a Grady Hendrix yet, and I'm going to change that this year because I own quite a few of his books, but I've just never read them. I think I bought most of them last year, so they haven't been on my TBR that long, but I am still embarrassed that I haven't read an author yet that I know that I'm going to love, so I am rectifying that this year. How to Sell a Haunted House was published on January 17th, and it has an average rating of 4. So that is very exciting to me, and I cannot wait to read this. Next up, we have Mysteries of Thorn Manor by Margaret Rogerson, which is a short story published in the Sorcery of Thorns universe. I read Sorcery of Thorns. I think it was my first book that I read in 2022. So I've read it a year ago and it was amazing. I gave the book 5 stars. So when I saw that Margaret Rogerson was coming out with a short story or like a novella in the same world, I definitely knew that I had to add this to my TBR and pick it up. This also has a very high rating of 4.28, so I'm very excited for that. And I am going to have to reread Sorcery of Thorns before I get to this though. The next book that I am excited for is The Drift by CJ Tudor. So if you guys have been on my channel for any period of time, you may know that I am a huge CJ Tudor fan. She is an auto-buy author of mine. I love anything I read from her, and she has come out with a new novel. So recently, at the end of 2022, she published a collection of short stories, and I read it and absolutely loved it. And the Queen has blessed us with a new novel very close to the publication of her short story collection. So I am very grateful because, like I said, I will consume anything CJ Tudor. This came out on January 19th, and I'm kind of a little bit upset that I haven't picked this up yet, but I blame my busy work and school schedule on that. This next book on my list is an obvious one. It is Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare. I own both of the 2 previous books in the Last Hours trilogy, and I haven't read them yet because I know how Cassandra Clare writes. I know she loves to leave us on a cliffhanger, so I haven't read the other books because I knew that I would be devastated if I read them and was left on a cliffhanger for a year. So now that the last book in the trilogy has been released, I will be able to read all 3 of them back to back, and that will probably be a reading vlog that will come out this summer. So be excited for that. The next book is Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun, which is the 3rd book in the Finlay Donovan series. I think it's a series. I think there's another book coming out after this one. So I read the first book in the Finlay Donovan series last year and I absolutely loved it. The second book in the Finlay Donovan series is actually on my TBR for February/March, so I am going to read that soon. And then we have the 3rd one that came out at the end of January on the 31st. And briefly, for those of you who don't know what Finlay Donovan is about, so we have our main character Finlay, who is like a crime writer, and one day she goes to a Panera Bread to talk with her agent about her upcoming book that she's working on, and someone overhears them and mistakenly think she's a hit woman. So this mystery woman leaves a note for Finlay with a target and a sum of money, and from there shenanigans ensue. So this is obviously a very funny setup for a book, but this series also deals with a lot of more serious topics like being divorced, having young kids, going through a messy divorce, and also finding yourself after a divorce and stuff like that. So the first one was really fun. I think I gave it 4.5 or possibly 5 stars. So I'm very excited to read these next 2 installments. The next book that I have on my list, we are now at the part of the list where the books haven't been released yet. So this next book is A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. So this is a prequel novel to The Priory of the Orange Tree. I read The Priory of the Orange Tree, I think in 2021 or possibly in 2020, I cannot remember. But I remember really liking it. So for those of you who don't know, The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon is an adult fantasy novel. It's about this fantasy world where there are dragons, there are countries at war, stuff like that. And the dragons in here, I think, are sentient beings. Like, I think they can talk and they are possibly on a quest for vengeance. I read this so long ago, so I am going to have to reread this in order to read A Day of Fallen Night, because I looked at the Goodreads page and apparently it's like nearly as long as this one is, and this is a monster of a book. I think this is probably the biggest book that I have ever read. So I am going to again do a reading vlog where I try to read both of these. It's going to be a reading vlog that's like more on the long term, obviously, but I am wanting to do more themed reading vlogs this year, so I think this could be a fun one to do. So A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon is the next book on my list. and it is being published on the 28th of February, so next Tuesday. The next book is Last Violent Call by Chloe Gong, which is a novella in her Secret Shanghai series. The first book in this series, which is Foul Lady Fortune, came out last fall, and we are already being graced with the novella, so that is very cool, and it is coming out on the 28th of February. If you guys want to know what Foul Lady Fortune is about, I gave a summary of this book in the last book haul I did, so I will leave that video in the suggestions up here. This next book comes out at the end of February as well, the 28th. So next Tuesday, the 28th of February, is going to be a big day of big releases, which I'm very excited for. And this one, I cannot contain my excitement for. So it is The Angel Maker by Alex North. So I absolutely love Alex North's work, and you can actually see all of his previous books. I have them behind me. So we have The Whisper Man, The Maidens, and The Shadows all behind me here. So he is coming out with a new book, The Angel Maker. It's a story once again about a serial killer, and his books are never really long, and I feel like the pace that he sets is very enjoyable, so I'm very excited for this one. Now on to March, we have Grey Mist Fair by Francesca Zappia. So this is a fantastical murder mystery. It is set in this fictional town of Grey Mist Fair, and it's all about mystery, it's all about dangerous magic, and we obviously have a murder. Our main character discovers a body on the road in her town, and her search for the culprit is going to reveal a lot more mysterious and dark happenings in her town. So this sounds super interesting. I have read a couple of Francesca Zappia books in the past, and I've always enjoyed them, so this is one that I'm excited for, and it is coming out on the 28th of March. Now jumping into April, we have In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. So this book is coming out on the 25th of April, and I absolutely love TJ Klune's writing. I feel like his books are always so beautifully written. The subjects that he writes about are often more serious topics like love, death, self-worth, finding yourself, accepting who you are, and accepting the differences between people. And I believe that this book is going to be no different. So it is set in this kind of dystopian-ish slash science fiction-y world where we have an intermingling of robots or electronic entities and humans. And I believe that one of these robotic entities gets captured by like an enemy of some sorts, and our main characters have to band together to save him before he gets killed or reprogrammed. It says in the synopsis, so that sounds very interesting. Again, on April 25th, we have This Delicious Death by Kayla Cottingham. So if you guys don't know who Kayla Cottingham is, she came out with her debut novel last year, My Dearest Darkest, and I read this actually in a reading vlog that I published last summer, and I absolutely adored this. So this book is kind of like a sapphic dark academia slash horror, I guess, novel, and it was fantastic. So considering how much I adored this book, when I found out that Kayla Cottingham was coming out with a new book in 2023, I decided to immediately add it to my most anticipated reads list. So This Delicious Death follows four best friends who go to a music festival after graduation as kind of like one last hurrah before going off to college. And at that music festival, they end up finding a cooler full of human organs. So this is going to be a very interesting novel. I don't know if it's sapphic like her other book was, but regardless, I am excited for this book because if I refer to my reading experience of My Dearest Darkest, her writing is fast-paced. She knows how to set the tone, the atmosphere, and sometimes she has like little funny snippets in there that just make you laugh. So I am very excited for this upcoming book of hers. So we're closing in on the end of the list. The next book that I have here is A Twisted Love Story by Samantha Downing. So Samantha Downing is the author of My Lovely Wife, which I really enjoyed, and I haven't read a book of hers since then, but I really do like her writing style, and she's coming out with a new thriller novel. It's coming out in July. So the only thing that I've read in the synopsis is the tagline, and I'm going to share that with you now because I feel like it's something that's so relatable to a lot of us. and it says, from the best-selling author of My Lovely Wife comes a reckless, delicious thriller about a young couple that gives a whole new meaning to the dangers of modern dating. So I think this book is going to be about two people who meet through a dating app, and possibly one might be a killer and try to kill the other, or potentially drag their new partner into their schemes. I am not quite sure. Like I said, with most thrillers, I tend not to read the synopsis if I can help it, and just reading the tagline for this was enough for me, and also considering that I have read a Samantha Downing book in the past and really enjoyed it, made me add this book to my TBR. So this comes out in July. The last book that I have on my list is The Ruined by Renee Ahdieh, which is the last book in the Beautiful Quartet. So once again, true to my nature, I never start a series if it's not finished yet. So the last book in this quartet is coming out this year. I have all three of the other books in this quartet, but I haven't read them yet, because for me personally as a reader, I don't like waiting for a sequel to come out, because in the meantime, usually the delay between the releases of the books in a series is about a year, and in between that I read a bunch more books and I tend to forget what happened. I'm trying to start annotating my books more, so hopefully that will help me a little bit in that regard, but I just don't like waiting a long time for a sequel, because like I said, I end up forgetting like important details, and then I'm stuck rereading the books before I move on to the next book that was just released. There's also the fact that I absolutely hate being left on a cliffhanger and having to wait a year plus to know what happens next. Out of curiosity, let me know in the comments down below if you guys are the same as me, like regarding this subject, because I absolutely hate waiting a long time for sequels, especially if I'm left on a cliffhanger. So I just wait until all of the books in a series are released, and that's when I feel comfortable starting the series, because I usually prefer to binge the books back to back. I feel like that's always how I've read series, except for like in the beginnings when I was a reader, like when I was like 14 or 15 when I started reading YA. But now that like my tastes and my preferences and my reading habits are established, I feel like that is something that's been there for a while and doesn't change and will not change. So let me know in the comments if you're the same as me on that. So those were all the 15 books that I have on my most anticipated reads list for 2023. Let me know in the comments down below which books you're excited for this year. I'm always looking for new books to add to my TBR, so if you guys would like to share them with me, I would be very grateful. Also, let me know if there are any books that I mentioned that are either new to you or that were already on your most anticipated list for this year. We'll be able to fangirl and get excited for those releases together. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, let me know by giving the video a big thumbs up. Also, do not forget to subscribe to my channel so you never miss a future upload of mine. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye, book nerds!